0 to 60 car videos here. Today we've got a 2006 Honda Odyssey. It's got a bad power steering pump, quite the squealer here, and the serpentine belt. We're going to go ahead and get that replaced at the same time. So to start out, we are going to loosen up the tensioner on the serpentine belt. Now sometimes the aftermarket ones don't come with the pulley, so you'll have to take that off, and that's easier to loosen up that nut right here while it's still got tension on it. But the one that we have is actually comes with the pulley, so we're gonna just go ahead and take that belt off to start. All right, so if you have one of these extensions, 3/8 extensions for a serpentine belt tool, that'll make your life a lot easier. And then you can just, as you can see here, the tensioner is right in line with the alternator. And you would just put that 14mm bolt on the tensioner and then put pressure towards the cab of the vehicle, and then that will allow you to pull this belt off. So after getting the belt off and kind of looking, you got to get at a bolt in here that's behind this pulley. Kind of got it centered on the screen there, and very difficult to get anything on there. So I'm going to go ahead and take this pulley off. So this is I believe it's a 19mm bolt. Double check my, 19mm bolt to take this pulley off. You just have to jam something in there to where the pulley won't turn if you've already taken the belt off like I did. And then we'll take that off, set it off to the side, and then should be able to pop this pulley off to where we can get better access to that bolt. Couple good whacks and that pulley should come off, and that'll give us some better access to that bolt down there. Which the belt is blocking my view here. That's the bolt. Okay, now that I've got the pulley off and I've got more room to get at this 12mm bolt, I'm gonna put a long well 12 on there, and I'm gonna basically try to break it loose before we get too far. That way I'm not trying to fight it later on. I want to at least get these two main bolts that are holding this on broken loose. All right, this should give us some leverage. Broken that one loose. I'm going to go up here to this one, which I might have to switch to a short well. All right, so I've switched to a short well on this top one again, just breaking this one loose. This is the second bolt to actually take the pump off. So now that I've gotten those loose, I'm going to switch to actually taking these hoses off. I'm going to start by taking the high pressure side off first. So that's going to be these two bolts right here. And I'm expecting to start losing some power steering fluid once this high pressure side gets taken off. But definitely don't want to lose these bolts here. So I'm going to take those out by hand. And I'm going to set them right here in this intake valley for now. But this should come straight off. And we want to check the O-ring, make sure that it's still there. Because if it's not, which it is, we'd want to go digging for it down there. So now that I've got the high pressure side off, I can take this low pressure side off, which this is what's actually going over here to the reservoir. And this is just simply a clip. I can actually, surprisingly, I'm able to move that by hand. So, wow, that's a first. Didn't even need any vice grips or anything, and we're free. So now that that's off, we can should be able to loosen these 12mm bolts to take this old pump off by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen these up. This is the easy one. Put it in my little storage area here, and then I can go down to this bottom one here, which is completely soaked in leaking power steering fluid from this pump being bad for so long. So it's a little slippery, but we will go ahead and get this taken out. Got that out. And there's that old pump. So here's the new pump. Looking at this pump, you can get a better idea of the location of the bolts. So I didn't have to take that pulley off to get the bolt out, but it definitely made my life a little bit easier. I'm going to try to put this new pump in without taking the pulley off. As you can see, there is some clearance here, so I'm going to give it a shot just to kind of skip that step, and hopefully that'll work out for us. So it's definitely easier to get this top bolt here started and then get your fingers on this bottom one. That way this is sort of holding it in place, but it's still loose enough to where you can kind of move around. And then I'm going to run this one as far as I can down by hand, and then switch to this one, run it down all the rest of the way, and then we'll tighten them up. All right, so now that I've gotten those run in and snugged up, we can go ahead and slip this back on, make sure it gets seated well, and run these two 10mm bolts in. Get those snugged up. And then we can go ahead and put this hose back on, which I think that this is a source of leaking since it was so easy to take off. So I'm actually going to try to find a better clip for this. But we'll go ahead and get her pushed on in the meantime, just to make sure everything's working good. And I'm actually going to replace this belt, so I'm going to take this one all the way out, and we'll get the new one running. All right, once you get the belt on, there's really no good way to film that, but I'll try to add a diagram. You're going to want to fill this reservoir up with power steering fluid before you crank it, so it has plenty to pump. All right, so once you fill the reservoir up, go ahead and start it and make sure that it's pumping good and be ready to refill. Yeah. So once you've filled this up enough and let it run for a while and check for leaks, it should be good to go.